So are you trying to build a real estate website, but you're kind of stuck because you don't really know what you need to be putting on the page? You're probably thinking that you need a section for your properties, maybe a page for you and your team, maybe there needs to be a section for buyers and maybe for sellers. Oh, and of course you need the contact page, right? Oh, and let's not forget about the IDX. Oh, and there's that other thing. You've heard that term call to action, right? Oh, you're gonna need one of those too. And it needs to go somewhere, right? To another web page. Oh, and I heard about that term lead capture too. We need one of those. Is that a page or a form? Well, the reason I bring this up is because many of you guys do not know how to truly structure a web page so that you can properly generate leads from the people that you're prospecting online. And without the proper framework or direction, or really the education, you're gonna end up spending a bunch of money on a website that you think is gonna work, but probably isn't. And it's just gonna sit there for days and then months. And then eventually, after maybe a year, you're gonna end up upset, pissed off at your web developer, and you're gonna just essentially hit the reset button and start all over again. Emmanuel here, and in today's video, it's gonna be a good one. I'm gonna be breaking down how exactly to be structuring your web pages so that they can capture leads. Now, I want to kick off today's video with a very simple analogy of how you think you should be assembling a website. You see, most realtors tend to think of their website kind of like going shopping at a grocery store. And if there's something that they like or they think that they need, they're essentially just gonna throw it in their cart. Maybe they're walking down the aisle and they see some nice meat and cheese or some charcuterie, and that can actually AKA be in the form of a team page or maybe an about page. So they throw that into the cart. And as you continue to walk down the supermarket or grocery, you see more stuff that you kind of want or you think you need. Maybe there's a special, or maybe you heard a really great story about why you need some kombucha. That could be in the form of your sale page. And finally, when you make your way to the checkout counter, you pretty much take everything out of your cart, you put it on the counter, and you look at all this stuff, and it's all stuff that you think you need, but when you look at it and after really purchasing it, you kind of realize, you probably don't. Well, the truth of the matter is, building a website is not really so much like going to the grocery store and going shopping, but it's more so like you creating your perfect dish. In creating your perfect dish, the one that's really gonna wow your friends when they eat it, you have a methodology, you have a framework, you have essentially a list of ingredients and instructions on how to properly, put these ingredients together to really get the flavors cooking, and at the end of it, you're gonna come out with this beautifully flavored dish that everyone's gonna love. You see, websites that generate leads follow the exact same methodology. Websites are structured in a way where you have a certain amount of ingredients that you need to blend in the right amount of time and in the right order to make the perfect dish or the perfect web page to really capture and captivate your prospects so that they're gonna want to dive into it and want to dive into working with you. So today's video is all about breaking down the ingredients and the recipe to really creating the perfect web page to generate you some new leads. But before I get into it, make sure you click that like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon. You know it helps out the video. You know it helps out the channel. Thank you so much in advance. I'll give you a second. Go ahead. I'm gonna just click this motion right here. Do it to your left click on the mouse to that like button. Subscribe. Yep. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, before I get into the good stuff, I just want to give a quick attribution shout out to one of the people that I follow from afar. I really consider him a mentor. His name's Donald Miller. He's the author of StoryBrand. The methodology I'm breaking down for you today is really, inspired by the framework that he put together in his book. So the best way I can articulate the ingredients for the web page recipe is really by showing you. So let me hop into my iPad now, shall we? Now, before I get into the good stuff, I first want to break down the main components of a web page so we can be talking the same language. So up here, you have the section that's called the header. And then down here, you have the section that's called the footer. And then right here in the middle, the part with the good stuff, that's called the body. Now keep that in mind as we start breaking down this web page. All right, I first want to start talking about the structure of a web page, and it's really broken down into 5 main parts. So let me illustrate that real quick for you. So that's one, that, that. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, perfect. Now, first let's start with what's called the fold. Now, the fold is essentially the part that appears on your screen right after the web page loads. It's called the fold simply because it's taken from really a newspaper, in that when you're looking at a newspaper, the part that you read before unfolding it, it's called that top section, it's called the fold. All right, now above the fold, the first thing that I want to point out is that there should be a picture here, really, of your 5-star prospect, your perfect client. And you got to make sure that they're happy. You see, image matters a lot. And this image should really resemble your ideal client. The idea here is that you want to be able to showcase a person landing on your webpage as happy and successfully being served by you. And really the prospect wants to see themselves in that photo. Now, the next part is all about the text. And the text here shouldn't be this long dissertation. It should just be something very short and aspirational. And it should really, articulate the goal that you're trying to deliver for your prospect. So you can maybe put it here in the middle, or maybe you can put it here to the side of that picture. It's really up to you. You can get creative at this point. The key here is that you're going to want to play around with the copy as much as possible and really test it, because you need to really figure out the right text that emphasizes the solution to your prospect's problem. And the only other thing I highly recommend adding to this section, this picture section, is a call to action. So let's add a button here. Now, before we dive into the stuff under the fold, I want to mention one more key component, which is the header. Now, of course, you're going to want to make sure that you have your logo on the top left. But one thing that you need to consider in terms of the composition of this section of the webpage is that you want to try to limit the fluff. And when I say limit the fluff, I'm talking about a bunch of links across the top of the website. The reality is, they're not really needed, and it's just going to incentivize this prospect that landed on your page to click somewhere else. We don't want them to do that. We only want them to do one thing, which is to act on your call to action. So let me remove this, and instead I'm going to add a button here, which should be your call to action. Now, I know what you might be thinking. What about all those other pages? What about your buyer's page, your seller's page, your property page, things like that? Well, there's a time and place for those pages, but they're not really necessary in this part of your website. So I'm going to get to that in a second. But just keep that in mind. We don't need all those links across the top just yet. The next section under the fold is a section where we're going to start talking about the cost of failed action. In this section, we need to be articulating really the negative aspects of this prospect not working with you. You really have to paint the picture in as minimal words as possible about what life would be like if they make no action, or they don't make the moves to necessarily change the position that they're in. Another way to think about it is, the only reason people want to work with you is because you have the ability to solve this particular problem. So you need to be able to have a section really defining that problem. Because you see, once you're able to properly define the prospect's problem, you're essentially hooking them, and they're going to want to learn more. So it can be in the form of a couple bullet points, like maybe this, or it could also be in the form of maybe a few sentences just like this. Now, the next section is all about positioning you as the guide, or really the person that's going to help them solve this particular problem. This is actually something that I've articulated to my clients, and I want to make sure I relay this to you. At the end of the day, on this website, you are not the star of the show. Your prospect is. You are simply the guide to really get that prospect to where they want to be, where their goal is. You, my friend, are a mentor to your clients. So your job is really to try to guide them along this path or this journey to really get them to their end result. And really, that's what needs to be highlighted in section 3. Another way to think about this is, how can you get your prospect out of the problem that they are currently facing? And really, this is a great opportunity for you to start breaking down the facts. How many sales have you done? How many properties have you closed? How many clients have you helped? All right, so let me hop into the iPad real quick. This is essentially a section where you want to articulate that you've done what you're saying that you can do. You've solve their problem. So you want to be able to illustrate or showcase that you've been able to solve their problem. So you can do that, in the form of maybe showcasing some of your sold homes, right? Or maybe you can also, let me erase this and give you another idea of maybe showcasing some testimonials of like some avatars or some people that you've worked with. Really, there's a bunch of different ways that you can kind of build out this section. You can do both actually if you'd like, but really that's the sweet spot. You want to be able to articulate that you've done this before and you've successfully helped people through this process through your program. All right, now once you've been able to position yourself as the authority to really help guide these prospects, then it's all about answering the question, how? Break down at a very high level all the steps that you need to take to really get your prospects to their goal. What are the different phases that you put your prospects through to really transfer them from where they are now to where they want to be? So to better articulate this section, really your prospects are here and this is their destination. So maybe you'll want to draw the roadmap to get them here. Another really great idea to kind of articulate this part is maybe doing boxes. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Here, and then goal. So you want to be able to kind of take them through what you do to really get them to where they want to be, their goal, their end result. And then from here, you're also going to want to add another call to action, maybe the same call to action that you have at the top of the page. Now, speaking of calls to action, I want to spend a quick minute to talk about the different types of calls to action that you can use. These can be in the form of maybe a mini webinar, a short video, maybe a PDF, or a market report, something that will allow you to be able to provide additional value to this prospect to really help them solve their problem, or really define you as an authority to kind of push them along to thinking about you solving their problem. Now, you should be using these calls to action to capture your prospect's name, their email address, their telephone number, to really start drilling down and nurturing. And then from there, of course, we have the footer. And really the main thing I want to emphasize with the footer is this idea of it being the quote unquote junk drawer when it comes to all of those links that I was talking about at the top of the webpage above the fold. This means that if you have a page for properties, or maybe a search, or maybe a page for buyers and sellers, maybe your contact, hey, maybe add your logo here at the bottom left and then just start adding all those links down here. And maybe add a section for your contact information too. The goal here is you really want to make your message clear and precise, and you want to get rid of all the fluff. And by simplifying the web page so that the prospect is only inclined to do one thing, that's really the goal. The more options and the more links that you provide this prospect, it's only going to confuse them. That's why we save it for the very bottom. Now, if you have done this right, you will be able to capture a boatload of leads because you've really created the perfect recipe to solve your prospect's problem. By the way, real quick, comment section below. I want to hear it. Web page recipe, type it out if you want to try out this particular strategy for yourself. Now, I should also add that I'm giving you a very high level and a very basic framework of how this is supposed to work. I should also add that if there are additional things that you want to add to this web page, then by all means do. It's not set in stone. I'm here really to provide you with a baseline framework of how you should be structuring these web pages. That being said, I highly recommend you join the Facebook group. I'm going to leave the link in the description below as well. We break down a lot of ideas on how to be approaching these web pages in real life. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to kind of start peeling apart the onion and getting some real, grassroots ideas straight from us. But if you're looking for a solid play-by-play framework, a strategy for really moving the needle to creating your brand, to building your website, to actually generating leads online, and really how you should be approaching this lead generation process through social media or paid advertising, then I highly recommend you schedule a strategy session with either myself or someone from my team. I'm leaving that link in the description below as well. All right, guys, that wraps it up for today's video. I hope you found some value in this. And until the next video, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.